How did ancient humans travel the world? You got in your car this morning, turned the key, pressed the pedal, and moved 40 miles an hour without using a single muscle. 100,000 years ago, that same trip would have taken 2 full days of walking, barefoot, through territory that could kill you. No road, no path, no sign telling you what's ahead. For almost all of human history, getting anywhere meant risking everything, and you had nothing to carry you there except your own 2 feet. Today, you can fly across the planet in a day. You can order something from the other side of the world, and it shows up at your door. Movement is so easy now that it's basically invisible. But for roughly 300,000 years, every single journey a human being ever took happened at walking speed. And that one limitation shaped everything about how we lived, what we ate, who we married, and how much of the world we ever got to see. So let's start at the very beginning, not 300,000 years ago, earlier, much earlier. In 1978, paleontologist Mary Leakey found something at a place called Laetoli in Tanzania. It was footprints, not just any footprints, footprints that were 3.6 million years old. Two creatures walking side by side across volcanic ash. They weren't human yet, they weren't even close, but they were bipedal. They walked on 2 legs. And here's the thing about walking upright that nobody talks about. It's terrible for survival. 4-legged animals are faster. They're more stable, they're better hunters and better at escaping hunters. So why would evolution push us towards something worse? The answer is distance. Walking on 2 legs is slow, but it's efficient. You can cover ground for hours without exhausting yourself. You can carry things while you move. Your hands are free. And once that ability existed, once your body shape made it possible to walk farther than anyone else on the continent, staying in one place became pointless. You could get to better hunting grounds. You could find fresher water. You could keep moving toward wherever the next advantage was. And your ancestors did. For 3.6 million years, they walked. But walking wasn't enough, because 300,000 years ago, something changed. Humans didn't get faster, they didn't get stronger. What they did was they started planning journeys, not just wandering, planning. Archaeological evidence from sites in Africa shows that humans were deliberately collecting tools and resources before they traveled, suggesting they knew where they were going before they left. They were making maps in their heads. And that small change, that shift from wandering to intentional travel, meant that humans could now move to places that had never seen a human before. And they did. The first stop on this ancient journey was out of Africa. We know this happened, but the when is still debated. Some evidence suggests early humans were already in the Middle East 200,000 years ago. Other sites suggest it happened earlier, maybe 250,000 years ago. But what we know for certain is that humans didn't just make this journey once. They made it multiple times, in multiple waves, moving toward Europe and Asia with nothing but the ability to recognize where water would be and where animals would gather. These journeys took generations. Think about that. You leave your home in Africa. You will never see Africa again. Neither will your children. Your grandchildren might reach the Mediterranean. Your great-grandchildren might see Europe for the first time, and your great-great-grandchildren might finally stop moving and settle somewhere that will become home. This is how migration works, not as individuals escaping danger, but as populations spreading across continents at a pace of maybe 2 kilometers per year. But here's where it gets strange. Around 800,000 years ago, something impossible happened. Humans showed up on an island called Flores in Indonesia. The problem is, Flores is surrounded by water, deep water, water that's been there for millions of years. There's no land bridge, there's no way to walk there. Yet archaeologists have found stone tools, evidence of fire, bones of butchered animals. Humans were there, which means at some point humans built something to cross the ocean. Maybe it was a raft made of wood and vines. Maybe it was a boat, we don't know. But for the first time in human history, we moved across water, not just wading, moving across open ocean to reach a place we couldn't see from the shore. This is the moment everything changes, because if humans could cross 15 kilometers of open water to reach Flores, they could cross more. And they did. Around 65,000 years ago, humans crossed a much larger gap. They reached Australia. Now, the ocean level was lower back then, so the journey was shorter than it would be today, but it was still at least 90 kilometers of open water. That's an hour and a half in a modern speedboat, on a wooden raft with no compass, no instruments, using nothing but your knowledge of the stars and the way the water moved. That's a death-defying journey. And yet, humans did it, thousands of them, carrying dogs, because that's another thing nobody mentions. At some point, humans and dogs made a deal. Dogs helped us hunt, we gave them food scraps, and together we became unstoppable. Archaeological evidence shows that dogs were domesticated somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 years ago, making them our oldest animal companion. And they didn't just help us hunt, they helped us travel. They pulled sleds across ice in the Arctic. They carried burdens. They warned us of danger. They became partners in this endless journey across the world. By 50,000 years ago, humans had reached Southeast Asia. By 45,000 years ago, we were in Japan. By 15,000 years ago, humans had crossed a land bridge that connected modern-day Russia to Alaska and were spreading through North America. Some made it all the way to South America. Within 15,000 years, humans had populated two entire continents. We were in deserts, rainforests, mountains, islands, and Arctic tundra, and we did it all on foot. But then something remarkable happened. Around 5,000 years ago, in the grassy plains of Kazakhstan, someone decided to climb onto a horse's back, not to eat it, not to use its materials, to ride it, to sit on top of a wild animal and somehow convince it to move in the direction they wanted. This sounds insane, and it was, but it worked and it changed everything. The horse gave humans speed. For the first time, we could move faster than our own legs could carry us. We could travel 50 kilometers in a day instead of 20. We could cover distance while staying fresh. We could hunt with weapons. We could wage war. We could conquer territory. The empires that would eventually reshape the world, the Mongol Empire, the Persian Empire, the great kingdoms of the steppes, they were all built on the back of a horse. And it happened because someone in Kazakhstan looked at a wild horse and thought, I wonder what happens if I climb on that. But horses weren't the only innovation. Around 5,500 years ago, somewhere in Mesopotamia, someone invented the wheel. Now, here's a fun fact. The wheel was probably invented by accident. Archaeologists have found what looks like the oldest wheel, a pottery disc from around 3500 BCE, and it looks almost exactly like the kind of disc that was used to make pottery. So someone probably rolled it, noticed how well it moved, and thought, what if I put this on an axle? And suddenly, you could pull heavy loads without carrying them. You could move goods. You could build carts. You could move faster over certain terrain. Except the wheel didn't actually change travel much, at least not for people. Wheels are terrible on soft ground, terrible in forests, and useless on mountains. Wheels work on flat, prepared surfaces, roads, and that's why the wheel became truly powerful only when humans started building roads. The first real road network was built by the Persians around 500 BCE. They called it the Royal Road, and it stretched from the Mediterranean coast all the way to Susa in what's now Iran. It was 2,400 kilometers long, with stations every 40 kilometers where messengers could change horses and rest. With that road, information could move from one end of the empire to the other in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks when, a century earlier, that same journey would have taken months. Rome took this idea and ran with it. Roman roads were engineered with drainage systems, multiple layers of stone, and were so well built that some of them still exist today. At its peak, Rome had built over 400,000 kilometers of roads. That's enough to circle the earth 10 times, and those roads did more than just move people. They moved armies, trade goods, ideas, and diseases. The Roman road network was how an empire that started as a single city conquered the Mediterranean world. But here's what's wild. Before roads, before wheels, before horses, before boats even, humans had already traveled farther than any animal on Earth. We had reached every continent except Antarctica. We had adapted to every climate, every ecosystem, every possible environment. We had done it with nothing but our bodies, our intelligence, and our ability to keep moving even when everything said we should stop. Because that's what humans are. We are the animal that walks. Every other species has a territory. We have the entire planet. Every other species stays where it's safe. We go looking for what's beyond the next hill. And we do it not because we're faster or stronger. We do it because we can. The next time you complain about traffic on your morning commute, remember this. Your ancestors spent 300,000 years walking across continents they'd never seen, toward destinations they couldn't imagine, with nothing but the clothes on their backs and a stubborn refusal to stop moving. They walked across oceans on wooden rafts. They crossed deserts where the next water source was weeks away. They climbed mountains they'd never seen before and went down the other side not knowing what they'd find. And they did it so that you could sit in a car and complain about how long it takes to get to work. If you want to learn more about how humans shaped the world through movement, language, culture, and innovation, I've left all the research and sources below. There's a lot to explore, and the best part, you can do it all from home. Your ancestors would have killed for that opportunity.